Good evening, everyone. Greetings, Grand Rising for all the Galactic Jedi's, freedom fighters, and patriots. Well, we are about 7 days away from 3i Atlas' closest proximity to the Earth, and new data is coming in like never before to the point where even the UN is in panic based on what they've observed, according to their latest observations. Now, in today's live, guys, I'm going to go over some of that as well as give you guys a highly classified briefing coming from the Galactic Command, otherwise known as Solar Warden, and of course Space Force and their galactic allies, describing the true nature of not only 3i Atlas, but also R2 2025 Swan, which is about 100 times bigger, and of course the 9 craft, based on high level classification. And then I'm also going to be sharing with you guys the method and ways in which 3i Atlas has been communicating with our Earth governments. I hope you guys are having a fantastic evening. Are you guys ready for another in-depth analysis as to what's happening right now in our local star system, solar system, let's call it, not star cluster, local solar system. Wonderful. Now, a few announcements really quick. For those that took my December courses, you know that I decided to wrap it up within 2 weeks, right? I gave class 3 and 4 last week as to why there was no class today. And then, of course, for tomorrow, the only class that I'm still doing is for our cosmic origin. Our cosmic origin is still on for tomorrow, okay, where I read your galactic origin as it will be the final class. And for those that are on 3.0, which is the class after tomorrow, Sunday, that class was wrapped up last week. So for those that missed last weekend when I wrapped up class 3 and 4 for Ascension 1, 2.0, and 3.0, I want you guys to email me about 2 weeks and a half from now for a makeup next month. All right, guys. Also, as a reminder, guys, my January classes are up for grab. Go to my website, ourcosmicorigin.com, to access either Ascension Basics for beginners, Ascension 2.0 for intermediates, and then, of course, Ascension 3.0 for those that are super advanced, that are ready to understand how to embody the cosmic self. And then my groundbreaking class, our cosmic origin, guys, if you guys really want to go into the rabbit hole and get to understand the pinnacle of my message and overall knowledge, take our cosmic origin. That class is mind-bending, okay? You guys go into a rabbit hole that not a lot of people have access to yet. All right. With that having been said, I guess I could get right into it. Oh, gratitude. Thank you guys so much for being here. I want to extend gratitude to each and every single one of you, especially my moderators. And I also wanted to thank my new subscribers for becoming part of the Galactic Jedi tribe. And for those that are new to my channel, I'm also an author. I wrote 2 amazing books. They are right behind me. The Secret Government, Invisible Architects, describing the entire history between the battle between the Alliance and the Cabal going to pre-flood times. And then, of course, our cosmic origin, restoring galactic history and cosmic information back to the Earth. And anything else? Yes, the folium, guys. What not best gift to give someone this Christmas but optimal health? Okay, this amazing product does not only eliminate the stuff that they put in people, you know, the graphene, all nanoparticulates, self-assembly bots, smart dust, radiation, parasites, you name it. Ultimate body detox, okay, so that your body could be at optimal health. Now, disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, but I do believe in the natural way of doing things. And this stuff has been award-winning. Testimonials have been skyrocketing. And so, yeah, make sure you guys go through the link for that $10 to $15 discount through my codes, okay? With that having been said, now I could give you guys a thorough explanation as to why the UN is in panic within the last 5 days, okay? So you guys are probably thinking, what triggered the crisis in the UN right now as I speak? Well, the object itself that they have been aware of for quite some time, all right? The governments have known about this. Like I said, later on in the presentation, I will be describing the method in which 3i Atlas has been communicating with our Earth governments. Okay, so these new images apparently have revealed that there's a lot of order in 3i Atlas. Okay, there's a lot of intelligent. In other words, it's by intelligent design. Okay, it's not artificial. That's apparent. Okay, and there is an oversight apparently beyond Earth's technological structures that our Earth governments have no way of mimicking. Okay, we're talking about a technology that is not 1,000 years ahead of us, like as in the secret space program, or 2,000 years ahead of us, as in the Pleiadians and Andromedans, or even the Arcturians, who are 5,000 years ahead of us in technology. We're talking about a technology that is unfathomable. Okay, we're talking about technology that is hundreds of thousands of years ahead of us. Type 3 civilization. Okay, so for example, right now, when these observations of 3i Atlas were announced in the last few days, okay, when they really saw the living structures, how there are living intelligences on board, um, they went into panic, and I'll explain in a little bit. Okay, so as more and more images came in, researchers apparently were instructed to stand down, and a lot of this has to do with what they saw. Okay, um, so the message. Okay, so when these observations came in, guys, the messaging followed the familiar script. Okay, based on what they saw, they've already concluded that it is an intelligence by far more advanced that they have ever known. Okay, so plans were made for an open data sharing before they saw the real data, the real images. Okay. And apparently, for a brief moment, we thought we were going to get something, but nothing. Okay. This is the UN. You guys have to understand that the UN is the pinnacle of the globalist cabal agenda. Okay. So within hours upon what they saw with this new data that came in, okay, collaborated by the Japanese space station as well, and I'll get into that in a little bit. All the briefings were canceled. Okay, when it came to the UN, all the data streams were reclassified right away. Researchers were instructed to stand down, and behind closed doors, an emergency UN session was convened so quietly and so secret that even senior delegates were initially unaware that it was happening. And this happened exactly 3 days ago, guys. Okay. So, one thing to understand is that the United Nations, not the United States, we're talking about the vehicle of the globalist agenda. For those that read the secret government, the UN is a vehicle for globalization. Okay. The United Nations does not scramble over curiosities, it scrambles when control is being threatened. Well, apparently, the images did not depict a simple object tumbling through space, right, as they wanted us to believe. They actually showed structures behaving with intention. So it also appeared very coherent based on their observations. They saw cylindrical vectors that were apparently maintaining the integrity under forces that should have fractured based on the sun's flares, but nothing happened. Okay. So, surrounding, apparently, it was a faint but measurable distortion envelope surrounding the object. So, this is one thing that they found that really got them really scared, was the fact that they found this, like, some sort of like a dampened thermal signature um, envelope around the object that they couldn't really figure out. Okay, that allowed the object to bend. All right, that allowed the object to make sharp turns, face in and out of reality. Right, almost as if it was like in some sort of special bubble of some kind that defy all known laws of physics. Okay, so most unsettling was actually what emerged when exposures were stacked and cross-referenced across different wavelengths with other space agencies. And so, and this was the fact that they saw that 3i Atlas is not operating alone. Okay, it's got support. All right, I'm going to get into what R2 Swan is in a little bit, in the ninth smaller craft. Okay, so apparently they already know that there are these patterns that were revealing these other crafts that were apparently disappearing across sensor bands. Okay, so comets don't do that. They don't disappear out of the sensor bands and face in and out of reality. Yet at the same time, according to their observations, yet they maintained a consistent relative position as, of course, they fly right behind 3i Atlas. Okay, so these points did not orbit randomly according to their data. They adjusted as soon as 3i Atlas adjusted. Okay, they held formation when its velocity changed, and apparently it was behaving less like a debris or a comet and more like craft that were accompanying 3i Atlas. So now, according to the Japanese data, guys, which actually confirmed the impossible, and this data came in about 2 days ago. Okay, again, I feel like today's topic should be very paramount due to the fact that in 7 days, on the 19th of December, we are expected to experience 3i Atlas's closest proximity to the Earth. Okay, so now, according to Japanese observations and research institutions, apparently also reported some interesting data. Okay, and this was collaborated by independent data sets as well, not just agents or astronomers working in the Japanese Space Agency. So, according to this report, there were gravitational shear readings that suggested an unseen mass field enveloping Atlas. So, here's more evidence pointing out to the fact that there was some sort of a plasma field that is surrounding 3i Atlas. Okay, something exerting influence without fully manifesting in visible space. And even more troubling were the time domain I can't even say it, irregularities, time domain irregularities. This was a signal that returns that showed some micro latency shifts that were apparently inconsistent with distance alone, hinting at localized space-time modulation. And also, photometric analysis did reveal harmonic resonance patterns. They saw structures. This is coming from the Japanese space station. They saw structures, domes that were inside 3i Atlas. And of course, everything was mathematically elegant. Okay, so apparently it's by intelligent design. So, an internal Japanese assessment reportedly summarized the entire findings. Okay, the object behaves as if it's embedded in a larger system that we cannot fully observe. Okay, we're talking about technology that is perhaps 100,000 years ahead of us. And this is the reason why the globalists and all the UN organizations, including the UN, is, dropping briskets, if you guys know what I mean. Skirting bricks. Okay, that's the best way to say it. All right, so let's continue here. So shortly after this assessment circulated in the Japanese space agency, apparently there was access to this new data was restricted, and public explanations were softened into abstract astrophysical language. The pattern was apparently very familiar. Okay, why the UN went into crisis mode? Well, according to Commander Valiant Thor, you guys are going to love what he had to say as to why the UN is going into crisis mode. Well, contrary to fear-based speculation, which we get a lot of that, all right, the panic was not about invasion or annihilation. Okay, according to Commander Valiant Thor, there was no weapon signatures coming from 3i Atlas. Okay, there was no aggressive maneuvers. There were no threatening messages other than your time is up. Okay, but in a non-violent way. Okay, they know that the mass awakening and the activation of the crystalline grid, which is going to break the overlay, the matrix, right, the artificial construct. So they know that. Okay, so apparently they saw that it posed no threat. So the fear was very existential. Okay, it was very existential because they know that 3i Atlas undermines 3 score assumptions upon which centralized global governance depends on. And the first one is, according to Commander Valiant Thor, the assumption it is known that human institutions are the highest authority capable of interpreting cosmic reality. Okay, that is the first thing that it's going to break down. Secondly, the belief that humanity is isolated and therefore must submit to the earthbound hierarchies or governments for protection is also going to be collapsing. Okay. And the third thing as to why the UN is, again, scared, because the narrative of control and secrecy and managing through fear, which is something that they've been doing for quite some time, would you guys agree, is not necessary for planetary stability anymore. Okay. So those are the three, you could say, reasons why the UN is scrambling right now. Okay. So the images apparently suggested something profoundly that is destabilizing all of those assumptions. Okay. So if humanity realizes that we are not alone in the universe, okay, and this is what's, I think this is what's going to lead to a lot of smaller craft that are going to be exiting 3i Atlas and R2 Swan, which is 100 times bigger, creating what is called a mass sightings effect. Okay. At that point, it would be impossible to hide the truth from the general public, guys. Okay. So if humanity realizes, and the UN knows this, that we are not alone in the universe, okay, the justification of all of this unelected planetary government collapses. Okay. And so, therefore, Atlas's arrival, according to Commander Valiant Thor, is acting more as a mirror. Okay. It's also reflecting how deep humanity has been conditioned to outsource cosmic meaning in order to centralize bodies that do not represent the collective will of the people. So the UN's reaction was not protection, it was containment of its own institutional structures. Okay. And they know that this day would come. Why? Because they did get a signal in 1977 that was known as the what? The WOW signal, coming from the same region in which 3i Atlas projected out of. Okay. So the crisis was not triggered by danger in space, but by danger to a system that was built on monopoly over interpretation. And so a public that apparently understands, and in the larger picture, right, that we live in a cosmos full of intelligent life forms on different levels of advancements, right, from a type 1 all the way to a type 5 civilization. Well, they can no longer live in a fear-based governance. Think about that, guys. And that is why the UN is threatened right now. Okay. So beyond borders, guys, the most radical implications of the 3i Atlas images that scared the UN to the T is not technology. Okay. It's um that's the best way to describe it is they are portraying a type of technology, I guess it is technology, that we couldn't even understand, not even those that are within the secret space program. Okay. That's why they're scared. Okay. They suggest that intelligence capable, according to the UN report, that the intelligence capable of interstellar coordination also respects apparently non interference. Okay. So they know that the galactic allies of humanity do operate these, types of laws, right? Something that our own Earth's own power structures have ignored. Okay, so this is another reason why they're scared, because in a way, the cabal is violating the prime directive. Think about it. Who has the cabal been working for the last 13,000 years, give or take? The 200 Watchers, right? Those that came from, that rebelled against the one from planet Nibiru, the Anunnaki. Think about it. So, in a little bit, I want to explain the way in which, of course, 3i Atlas does communicate with the Earth's government. But the whole point of this report, according to Commander Valiant Thor, is that the Earth is now not governed by default, okay? And no institution could ever speak for the planet without consent, okay? And that is just the bottom line. So it is believed that 3i Atlas is apparently here to bring about the Great Awakening. Okay, and it's not going to intervene openly, but it's going to do it in subtle ways to the point where it's already communicating with the starborn on the Earth. Okay, so there's another report that came in that's very, very important. So overall, guys, the most profound impact right now of 3i Atlas is the fact that the intelligence is beyond Earth. It's way beyond our observation capability. Okay, the domination hierarchical system is scrambling as I speak. And so, in this context, they know that the Earth is undergoing some sort of ascension, right? Which is what? Reintegration. We're talking about what remains of the cabal through the UN. And this does not mean, of course, the overthrow. It means collapse, okay? So through integration, right, as we integrate with our galactic counterparts, the starborn, the millions of us, okay, it means that humanity will recognize itself as a collective participant in a larger reality. And they knew that this day would come, okay? And so liberation begins when the people stop asking who is in charge of the sky and start asking how they want to live on the ground, okay? So the next phase then is not driven by our earthly institutions, obviously, because they're done with, okay? But it's going to be driven by individuals, right? Those are going to be receiving transmissions. And in a little bit, I will explain how 3i Atlas communicates. So it's going to be done by the individuals, by the light worker communities that are choosing transparency over fear, that are against control, and of course that want some sort of transparency as to what's really happening right now with 3i Atlas. So as a result of this, okay, it is believed that humanity will glimpse a universe that does not rush to conquer or command, but once the images take root and once these images apparently make it to the public domain, it will become very difficult to accept our current systems that insist that domination is the only path to order. Okay. And so, in that realization, my friends, we are going to be witnessing what is called a critical mass awakening effect. Now, this next part of the presentation is coming from a report straight out of Solar Warden, Cosmic Clearance, Space Force Initiative, Delta 9. Okay, so according to this briefing, okay, now I'm going to go over the true meaning of the craft that is about 100 times bigger than 3i Atlas, known as R2 Swan. Well, this is coming from a joint orbital intelligence briefing. And for those that are asking, well, Ishmael, how come you have access to this kind of information? I am a cosmic ambassador. I do work as a liaison between the Galactic Alliance and, of course, the Earth White Hat team. So this is coming from classification TS-SCI cosmic axis, operational theater, interstellar solar parameter, subject SR Swan, dash 3i Atlas escort configuration, status active monitoring. Okay, this is a report from Solar Warden. So the executive summary states that there are multi-spectrum images happening right now as I speak with long exposure tracking and deep field anomaly correlating that indicate that 3i Atlas is not operating as a solitary or by itself, rather, because all the data, according to Solar Warden, as they are working with them, strongly presents a large low emission carrier structure right behind it, known as R2 Swan. Okay. And I know that the conventional astronomers have also been calling this a comet, but it is 100 times bigger than 3i Atlas. So, how can that be a comet? Okay. So, according to the Solar Warden briefings, who again are positively interacting with the inhabitants of both 3i Atlas and SR Swan, it is believed that, well, before I get to that point, but again, according to their data, not only is 3i Atlas coming by itself, but it's coming with a ship that is about 100 times bigger, that is operating in a non-reflective, partially phased state, that is also accompanied by 9 discrete secondary crafts that are maintaining structured formation. Okay, again, the Japanese Space Agency and the UN space agencies apparently have observed the same data. Okay, so the configuration matches previously classified Solar Warden escort and custodial fleet profiles, historically associated with non-hostile, non-interventionist civilizations that are conducting long duration solar system transits. All right, so according to the primary asset analysis coming from Solar Warden, SR Swan is known as the mothership signature, and its observed characteristics are depicting that it appears to be a broad, diffuse, luminous envelope, not solid, reflecting a body, but it also inhibits gravitational tension distortion that is inconsistent with dust clouds and gas. It also maintains constant spatial relationship to 3I Atlas despite velocity changes. And there's also minimal thermal signature relative to size near zero waste heat. Fascinating. Now, SR Swan is assessed as a phase shifted carrier platform operating outside full electromagnetic visibility. So apparently, our Earth scientists have difficulty trying to observe it because it's facing in and out of 3D, right? This is why they only see it sometimes, and this is why they don't see it sometimes. Okay, it's all in this briefing. So apparently, its absence at times, right, which is in standard optical imaging, is consistent with field mask architecture uh, that is technology that we don't have access to apparently. So the platform functions. We're talking about RS Swan. This platform functions as a command and stability vessel, and it is not a propulsion leader. Okay, this is way beyond propulsion. So, according to the observed characteristics, there is an extreme inbound velocity that is inconsistent with native solar system formation. And also, there is some sort of a non random course corrections that were detected over time. Spectral behavior inconsistent with known cometary or even asteroid materials. And it is sustained, it is showing sustained coherence through gravitational stress zones. We're talking about SR Swan, okay? The object that is 100 times bigger. So, 3A Atlas behaves as a controlled vector, not inner debris. Its motion suggests external stabilization, likely provided by SR Swan's field envelope. So, according to this report, the existence of SR Swan being within the field of 3I Atlas is actually protecting and guiding 3I Atlas. Okay, so they are working together, guys. There was a secondary assets and these are what they called in Space Force the nine craft, the nine objects, which are really nine craft. Okay, so high resolution stacked imagery and radar ghost returns reveal that the nine distinct point and what they call craft are arranged in a non-linear but symmetrical geometry around the primary assets. And so certain key observations based on their data states that these objects intermittently appear and disappear across sensor bands. Well, this also explains why conventional astronomers can't really detect the nine craft at times. Sometimes they're there and sometimes they're not, right? Also, according to key observations coming from Solar Warden, it maintains a fixed relative spacing with one another. So they are flying in perfect formation, right? They don't follow Newtonian or Kepler orbits type of physics, apparently. So it also demonstrates synchronized movement during course adjustments. Now, based on historical solar warden encounter profiles, we're talking about cosmic clearance here. The nine objects are assessed as escort class, and they do have a function. All nine of them do, guys. Okay, they are assessed as escort class, function specific crafts, and not fighters. Okay, so again, they're not here to invade. Okay, so according to the solar warden encounter profile, the first one is known as a well, according to their observed behavior, it's outer range persistence, and it's known as the perimeter sentinel. Okay, so that is the first out of the nine craft that are accompanying 3I Atlas. The second one is doing a course aligned micro adjustments as it flies near 3I Atlas, and its purpose is the navigator. Okay, this is the second craft. The third one is doing a persistent passive scan constantly wherever it goes, right? Especially as they, had certain meetings with the Jupiter command, and its name is known as the Archivist Recorder. So the third craft, small craft, is known as the Archivist Recorder. The fourth craft function is proximity to planetary fields, and it's known as the Mediator. The fifth craft is doing an interference suppression, okay, and it is known as the Guardian. The sixth craft is doing a resonance fluctuations, and it is known as the frequency tuner. The seventh craft is known as a temporal variance detection, or is conducting a temporal variance detection, and is known as the timeline monitor. The eighth craft is um, it is smoothing out the distortions, and it is known as the field repair healer craft. And then finally, but not least, the ninth craft that is accompanying 3i Atlas, it is doing a periodic, or it's constantly doing periodic signal burst, okay, which is known as the command rally herald. Okay, so this is what Solar Warden has known about these interstellar visitors. Okay, again, guys, in a little bit, I'm going to share with you guys the method in which 3i Atlas has been communicating with the Earth government. So I guess the question is, what exactly do some of these images show? Well, now I don't have the images, but I could tell you that one of them did show a large dim structure. Again, this is cosmic level clearance. I don't even think it's possible to access the images, but I did get a description from Commander Valiant Thor. So one of the things that they show is a large, dim structure distortion field that is way too organized to be a gas or dust. And it's also way too stable to be a natural debris. Okay. The second thing it showed was a fast moving central object um, with motion corrections that cannot be explained by gravity alone. All right. And then, of course, the third thing, the 9 smaller luminous or shadow like points appearing in repeated positions across independent imaging faces, and also maintaining formation even when 3i Atlas alters trajectory. That is fascinating. Okay. The fourth thing that the UN was shown was what is called gravitational and photometric anomalies, which is light bending and dimming inconsistent with known astrophysical models. So, I mean, that explains why the UN is in panic, right? And last but not least, um, another thing that these observations showed was that objects were apparently briefly visible in infrared or long exposure than absent. So, in other words, they were facing in and out, okay, which is, again, mind blowing to the Earth's scientists and to the UN. So, this configuration is consistent with custodial observation missions and not reconnaissance for invasion, okay? Erase it out of your mind, guys, that 3i Atlas is here to invade or siphon our energy. That is a lot of misinformation that is going out there. It is not, okay? So the absence of weapon signatures is also showing that it is a benevolent craft, okay? There are no aggressive maneuvers, okay? And all the direct emissions report that the assessment that this fleet is that it is just monitoring, guys. It is stabilizing, right? It is preparing environmental conditions, and Solar Warden historical files associate similar formations with planetary transition periods, as Solar Warden does have access to prior epochs when it was here before during other dark ages, right? As mentioned before, this is probably around the 6th or 7th time that these interstellar objects have come into our solar system. And so Solar Warden does have access to those files, and they have indicated that they see that this is a formation that is a part of some sort of a planetary transition period that our entire solar system is undergoing, and that it is normal, okay, according to the Solar Warden briefing. So SR Swan is assessed as a mothership. Okay, this is the final assessment that Solar Warden has documented, that it is a mothership class carrier operating under stealth phase protocols. providing stabilization and command oversight for 3i Atlas. And the 9 secondary craft apparently function as escort and harmonic control units. As mentioned, each one has its certain function, ensuring mission's integrity across space and time, dimensional bandwidths, and gravitational environments. So this is not going to be a simple flyby, okay? This is not by random either. This is all by intelligent design, managed operation, in other words. So um, the next thing I want to share with you guys is the method in which 3i Atlas communicates with our Earth governments, okay? Okay, so the way we imagine communication with non-human intelligence is way different. Okay, we can't even. It's very similar to the way computers operate. Okay, in other words, it is almost always by default to familiarize ourselves with what verbatim, photonics. But have we ever considered the fact that there are other means of communication, like radio waves, right? Symbols, right? Think about the pictographs of ancient civilizations, right? The hieroglyphics. Think about that, guys, and much more. Okay, mathematics, music. Okay, music. Okay, so what I'm trying to say here is that the truth of the matter is that according to highly classified information, guys, the way 3i Atlas has been communicating with Earth governments is through binary patterns, zeros and ones and zeros, okay? And also harmonic musical notes. Okay, so apparently music and the binary pattern systems are universal across the multiverse, okay? So they've been communicating through binary patterns and musical harmonics. And so, yeah, that's the way 3i Atlas has been communicating. Now, why binary? Let's examine this for a little bit. Why binary? Well, that was the first shared language. Okay, binary is not a technological invention. It is a property of existence, light and dark, presence and absence, signal and silence, ones and zeros. Okay, bear with me here, guys. So, at the most fundamental level, all intelligences, biological or otherwise, must perceive differences. Okay, not everyone speaks like we do down here on Earth. However, binary is therefore the most simplest possible bridge between unknown observers. And it does not require shared culture, biology, or symbols, guys. It actually only requires the ability to recognize non random alterations. And so within this interpretive framework, 3i Atlas is not imagined as a broadcasting messaging, or it's not imagined as a thing that is broadcasting messages using words. Okay, get that out of your minds. It is actually behaving in pattern states. Okay. Um, in a way, it's like visibility followed by a disappearance, but it's also accelerated followed by stabilization. So these signals are emerging following a silence. Okay, these alternating conditions, the binary patterns, from a recognizable on-off cadence, binary, not as code but as intentional rhythm, is the way 3 Alice has been communicating with our Earth government. So the Earth governments are actually using AI to decode and translate what they've been trying to say. And I'm sure that this is very similar to the way they were able to decode the wow signal in 1977. Okay. So random systems apparently fluctuate endlessly when intentional systems repeat with restraint. And so binary in this sense is how 3i Atlas establishes recognition, and this is not by accident. Okay, guys. So we could also say that across different types of civilizations, binary, it's also necessary in order to keep what is called harmonic order, right? This is how they keep everything. It's kind of like what they say, the pixelation of realities, right? It's all binary. So Binary alone only says, I am here to say more without words requires structures. And so this is where musical harmonics enter the equation. So this is the second method in which 3i Atlas is also communicating with our Earth governments, not only through binaural patterns of ones and zeros, but also through musical harmonics, which is a language that is shared across the multiverse. Okay. So music is mathematics, guys, expressed through time. And believe it or not, long before language came into existence, humans responded to rhythm and tone. Think about that, right? Octaves, fifths, and harmonic ratios are not cultural inventions, they are mathematical relationships embedded in vibration itself. So, any intelligence capable of manipulating motion, timing, or energy could actually encode meaning through harmonic spacing rather than speech. Okay. And in time, we're as we go into fourth and fifth dimensional Earth and above, we're going to learn how to communicate in that way as well, guys. Okay. So um, so according to Soul Warden, right? Thanks to Commander Valiant Thor, I had access to this bit of information that is actually crucial because a lot of people think that they were communicating verbatim, but they're not. Okay. 3i Atlas is interpreted as expressing non-random harmonic intervals, not melodies in the human sense, but ratios that scale clearly, that repeat coherently, and resist chaotic breakdown. So when timing patterns, frequencies shift, and signal intervals apparently align with harmonic mathematics, and they signal intelligence through that order. Okay, that's how they communicate with other advanced civilizations. Can I get more water, please, hon? Thank you. Binary establishes intention, guys, also. Okay, it is, again, harmonics through coherence. And this is important because as we become a type 1 and eventually a type 2 civilization, this is going to be the way we're going to be interacting with other civilizations. Okay. So language carries history, as you guys know, right? It's also, it could be bias, right? Uh, and power dynamics, a sense of power dynamics, right? Through the different languages. So the third way in which they would be able to communicate with us is through a language that is a universal language across our planet. So in this regard, we could say that French, right, which is probably more dominant than English, is probably another way in which they're able to communicate with us beyond the binary and mathematical harmonics. Okay. So they always also choose a language that is mostly being spoken of, okay, throughout the world. And I used to think English was it and then Chinese, but apparently it's French. Okay. Thank you so much for the water. I appreciate that. So, for an intelligent civilization to communicate across civilizations or across vastly unequal levels of development, this approach, music, right, harmonics, binary patterns, and of course a universal language, avoids domination. In other words, it does not instruct. Okay, it does not command, and it only demonstrates. So, in this interpretive perspective, guys, Atlas does not tell humanity what to think. Okay, it shows that thinking is happening. So, how the Earth governments would recognize the signal is by decoding the binary code, the binary patterns, zeros and ones and zeros, and of course the mathematical notes. Which reminds me of the movie The Fifth Encounter. If you guys remember that scene in The Fifth Encounter, well, I was able to watch it earlier, just that clip as I was putting this presentation. I was mind blown that Steven Spielberg uh, decided to insert it in his movie, right? Musical notes as a way to communicate with that craft that the humans were trying to interact with in the movie, The Fifth Encounter. Is it called The Fifth Encounter?
Close Encounters.
Oh, Close Encounters. Sorry.
Kind.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Wow, I can't believe it. That's amazing how they have this information, right? And they make movies out of it. Okay, so governments do not need to understand such communication to read it. Okay, they only need to recognize the pattern beyond the chance. So modern intelligent agencies are trained to detect such patterns, repetitions, structured variation, non-random correlation and harmonic regularities, especially when observed consistently, which would immediately trigger classification, not because their meaning is known, but because their origin is ambiguous and uncontrollable. Okay. And again, this is a way of communicating that has been going on within the private sector with these secret space programs, right? So, in this perspective, the Earth governments are not just receiving a message that says, hello, we're here, your time is up, let the Earth ascend, let the Earth rejoin the galactic community. No, they're not receiving that. They are receiving something far more um, unsettling, which is proof of structured intent without explanation. Okay. And an unexplained intent is the most stabilizing form of information imaginable to a centralized authority structure, which is what the UN is. Okay. So binary and music do not require intermediaries. Okay. They do not even belong to any nation or institution or ideology. Anyone with sufficient perception can actually observe them. Anyone can analyze the ratios and anyone can sense the rhythm. And this is why such a form of communication, real or not, if you guys want to, however you want to believe it, would be deeply uncomfortable for global power structures because it bypasses diplomatic channels entirely. Okay. So there is no treaty to sign when it comes to this type of communication. There is no spokesperson to appoint, no authority to grant legitimacy. So the signal does not ask, all right, who speaks for the earth. It simply exists. And this is why governments respond with silence. Okay, this is why they shut down NASA for almost a month and 5-10 days, almost a month and a week, right? So from this perspective, guys, think about it. The response of the earth governments, all the classification levels beyond the president, beyond the prime minister, all the minimization, I can't even say it, all the narrative containment, all of the evidence that they've been trying to hide from us will shatter overnight. Okay. And that is the fact, right? They know that they're losing control and power. So a communication method that cannot be framed as hostile, benevolent, or even negotiable undermines the very logic of geopolitical mediation. Therefore, binary patterns cannot be spun. Okay, harmonic ratios cannot be censored. And this is the reason why even independent astronomers are picking up on the signals. Okay, they cannot be censored. Well, they either appear or they don't. Okay, that's the best way to say it. And then once acknowledged internally, they cannot be unseen. Okay, so perhaps the most profound implication of this amazing, I guess, new stream of data, guys, is that 3i Atlas may not be communicating in the human sense as we know it, but it is operating in a way that reveals intelligence to those capable of noticing, all right, with no instructions, no demands, and no hierarchy. Okay. So, pretty much what they are portraying is just presence expressed through order without the hierarchy. And so when the earth governments are responding to it is not as an alien transmission, okay, but as a mirror that is apparently held up to humanity's assumptions about power, authority, and meaning. And so in the end, the idea that 3i Atlas is communicating through binary patterns and musical harmonics is reframing the entire question of contact. It's also suggesting that the most advanced form of communication is not domination, it's not persuasion or even dialogue, okay, but demonstrated coherence. Binary says I am intentional, music says I am ordered, okay, and everything else is left out. Everything else is left to the observer. So, overall, guys, this is perhaps, or the best way to describe it is This is why this form of communication, right? Binary patterns, musical harmonics, it is unsettled, okay, uh, for those that are still holding to the control, because it does not speak to institutions, okay? It is speaking to those that are ready to listen without any censoring, okay? And that is the biggest threat, because they know that because of that, because anyone could pick up on these signals, they know that there's going to be some sort of interaction taking place between Three Eye Atlas, um, SR or RS Swan. I think I'm saying that in reverse. And of course, us, okay, those that are going to be ready to decode the binary patterns and the musical harmonics, okay? So, yeah, so that is fascinating information, right? We're only 7 days away from its closest proximity. And I just want to remind you guys that the 19th is exactly and about not the 19th. Yeah, the 19th is exactly in 7 days. So I will hope for you guys, as explained before, to just light up a candle. If you could do it in the morning upon waking up, that is ideal. And just kind of, pray and meditate and just stand with the children, stand with the innocents and the cosmic laws of justice. Okay, I hope you guys, if I could get enough people doing that on the 19th in the morning, we could actually shift reality. Okay, we have the power of the group mind. We just have to do it. And a quick reminder for those that are interested in cleaning out their bodies from nanoparticulates, that the graphene, parasites, and radiation. Radiation is also a big one, guys. We are constantly being radiated. This is the stuff. This is all in one. And what best gift for Christmas if you guys want to gift somebody? The best gift is optimal health. Would you guys agree? So I always put the link in the comments, actually pin it at the end of the live so you guys could access it with the codes. And yeah, that's it. So I guess I could open up for Q&A now. I hope you guys are having a fantastic Saturday today on the 13th of December, 2025. And yes, my friends, we are still on a positive timeline trajectory. We are still on a positive timeline trajectory. All right, I do want to give some shout outs. I see William Ryan in the house, Shakina 34, Donald Hoover, William, Melissa by Design, Corey 5008, XRP Alchemy is in the house, MJF, William Ryan, Project Skyfalls, Reekly 1111. Let me see if I could call somebody that I've never called before. Come on, somebody new. Who have I not ever called on before? Love and Light 773 is in the house, and all 2,700 Galactic Jedis. Welcome, welcome. All right, first questions. Hello, Ishmael. Hello, everyone. Everyone's saying hi. Hi, everyone. Truly appreciate and love what you do, brother. Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate that as well. Um, I love what I do. I love putting together presentations, even though sometimes it takes me all day. But again, that's what I was meant to do. So thank you guys so much for being here. Ishmael, do you know what the Three Eye Atlas signal is saying? You must be asking about what it's saying to the UN and to the world governments. Yeah, it's saying that their time is up, that disclosure is imminent, and that there will be no third world war, and that there will be no fake alien invasion, Project Bluebeam. That if worse comes to worse, and they do try to pull the alien car, right, through holographic advanced technologies, and and TikToks and our own anti-gravity aircraft, they will stop it, right? So yeah, they're telling them all kinds of stuff. Okay, and this is the reason why the UN is scrambling at this time. And I also appreciate the super chats, by the way. What percentage of Earth are NPCs? About 35, a little over 35%. NPCs are non-player characters or background people. Thank you so much, Lobo Mirlubina. Thank you so much for the super chat. Will there be a Carrington event on the 19th or stronger? Well, they are preparing NOAA and all of the space weather observatories are warning about a possible Carrington event due to some solar massive tsunami of flares that are inbounded. I don't know if you guys are keeping track with the sun, but our sun right now has the hole that is about 100,000 times the Earth, I think. Yeah, 100,000 Earths could fit in that hole, which is the biggest coronal hole yet. Okay, so they are predicting some sort of massive CME that could apparently knock out the grid and the satellites and so on and so forth. But I think that if that does happen, I think that's when Starlink and the stellar quantum technologies are going to come online because they don't depend on the sun for power. Okay, they don't depend. They depend on 0 point energy on the Earth's natural grid. Okay, that's pretty cool. I do have another super chat from Dan Designs. Dan Designs. Ishmael, can you ask Valthor why the Galactics continue to let the air, water, plants, and people and pets are still being chemtrailed, dialed with poisons from above? Good question, and I've actually have been concerned about that as well as I see the chemtrails right above me at times. It's really like one of those things where you wake up, you're in a high vibe, you're meditating, and you look up and you see a chemtrail, and it just throws off the vibe, doesn't it? So yeah, I'll definitely ask Commander Valiant Thor as to why they're still spraying. That's a good question. Yes, we are going to pray for the children on the 19th on the morning. Hopefully, everybody just for a few minutes. We're going to be praying for the children. The Epstein file list is supposed to be released also on the 19th, as it was voted yes to be released by Congress. So, yeah. All right. Somebody's saying when you see a chemtrail, all you have to do is say, "I do not consent." Okay. Hopefully, by stating that, it'll block the chemtrail from being observed into your body. Makes a lot of sense. Hello, Ishmael. Who now currently has control over the Three Eye Atlas? Good question. It's nobody has control over Three Eye Atlas. Three Eye Atlas is being operated by what is known as the Solar Architects. Okay, and and of course the advanced beings of Aurelius Prime, which is the planet that launched Three Eye Atlas, which exists at the center of our galaxy, or orbiting Sagittarius A. So the the best way to describe it is the inhabitants of Three Eye Atlas are also representatives of the many different star nations across the universe. So it's not like it's just one leader. I think it's more of an assembly and like councils. It's more of an assembly of different ET races, and it is being presided over by the Solar Architects. And the Solar Architects are the guardians of the nine realms, which operate as a Type 3 civilization existing at the center of our galaxy. I do have another question from Dakota Mindscapes. Thank you so much. She says, I loved our cosmic origin and ascension courses. Would What would a being from 12th dimension be like and their duties to function on Earth now? Oh, wow. What a question. Okay. So, a being that volunteered, that dropped all the way from the 12th dimension, when we undergo the ascension, which is an integration process, right? Where we connect with our different higher selves. As that being connects with all 12 dimensional versions of himself, not only will that being be able to access all 12 dimensional Earth realities at will, but it's also going to have access to the power of the great central sun from the central universe, which is amazing. Okay. In order to have access to the unlimited energy of the central sun, is very similar to Sentry. Sentry is that being that defeats Doctor Doom, that defeats Galactus, as portrayed in the Marvel comics. Sentry, look up Sentry. Okay, when you have access to the power of the central sun of the universe, you are not only indestructible, but you are able to manipulate, control time, space, and matter at will. Okay, and you have access to unlimited energy, electricity, magnetism, and you're able to control the entire fundamental forces of nature at will. So yeah, that's what happens when you integrate all the way to the 12th dimension. You become really powerful. I like using movies as examples to some of these things because again, a lot of this stuff was camouflaged in these comics. We're in a Marvel world. Well, we're in some world, right? Ishmael, question: can us Starborn communicate with Three Eye Atlas in the Lyrans? Absolutely. Absolutely, yes. And this is why it's important to take my Ascension courses because I teach you guys how to activate those abilities through, techniques, methods, and of course, I provide the information needed that will help you guys access your galactic avatar and so on and so forth. And again, guys, my classes are only $100. Okay. It's going to only be 2 weekends now, not 4 weekends, 2 weekends for about 2 hours each. So you pick either a Saturday or Sunday for two in a row, and that's it. Oh, you guys are so welcome. You guys are so welcome. How can we identify an NPC? Well, they exert no aura. They have no energy signature. They're completely cold. That's the best way to say it. Can you tell us about Rh negative blood type? Well, in short, Rh negative blood type, which consists of about 13% of the world population, are those that come from a uncorrupted, undiluted strain that could be traceable back to the original angelic humans, the Orphan 12-strand DNA. So they don't have in other words, the primitive gene, which is what they call the rhesus monkey protein. How did NPCs get that way? Good question. Well, they have been conducting genetic experiments, cloning experiments for thousands of years, right, since the days of Atlantis. They've also been working with negative AI, advanced negative AI, for thousands of years. So the NPCs are actually, you could say, lab-grown synthetic humans that are programmable like robots that have no soul. They are set up by the Matrix, and they are pretty much connected to the AI mind hive with no self control, and they're just programmed to make life impossible and make life hard for the real people with souls. Okay, that's what an NPC is. Thank you so much, Susan K, for that donation. I have another super chat from Dakota Mindscape. Thank you so much, sister. She's asking, which dimension is Val Thor in usually? In usually. He is a six-dimensional being, a multi-dimensional six-dimensional being, but he's mainly in the fifth dimension. And there's times where he faces in and out of dimensions. There's times where he's in the sixth dimension, but because he is part of the liaison group that works with the Y Hats and the Galactics, for the most part, he operates from the fifth dimension. And then at times, he materializes a 3D physical body. So he's mainly in the fifth dimension, but he is originally a sixth dimensional a being from the planet Venus. Good question. Can the NPC be upgraded through DNA activations and repairs? No, because their bodies are not organic. Their bodies are more synthetic or dead matter than they are living tissue. Okay, one of the things that I teach in Ascension 2.0, when I teach you guys how to communicate and establish a relationship with your body parts, is the fact that our organs are conscious, our skeletal structure is conscious, every part of our body is conscious. So one of the things that I teach you in Ascension, actually basics, not 2.0, is how to establish communication with your body parts, because everything is conscious. Your molecules, your cells are conscious. So that's the difference between or a living organic tissue, which is what we are, where everything is intelligent, right? Talk to your heart. Your heart is intelligent. Your heart is aware. It is sentient. Your organs are sentient. They have their own consciousness, right? Talk to your liver. That's what I teach in Ascension Basics, of course. But the difference is that NPCs are made out of non-living tissue with no intelligence. Okay, that's why it's going to be that's the reason why they won't be able to upgrade. They're just going to kind of face out of our reality. They're going to be malfunctioning, in other words. I'm looking for questions. So many good questions. Thank you so much, Parts Wizard, for your donation. Thank you, brother. He says, love is the answer. So true. So true. Yes, that is correct. Heart is smarter than brain, says Richard Stroman. That is true. Ishmael, do you ever feel unsafe about putting out this type of information? I think I would feel like I had a target on my back every time. Not at all, guys. Not at all. Nathan Taylor, thank you so much for your super chat. His question is, when the solar flash happens, will only 5D and above be healed, or will 4D and 3D be healed? I think the miracle, or what we call a mass healing, is going to take place on 4D, 5D, and 6D. Because even the Earth Terrans are going to go through a rapid or spontaneous healing. However, they're not going to be manifesting like supernatural powers like the starseeds that are going to be going to fifth dimension and above. So yeah, the healing will be for everyone who transitions into either the 4th D Earth, 5D and above. Now, again, the 3D Earth is going to be reconfigured. That's the best way to describe it. The current reality construct, which is acting like an overlay, is going to crumble. So 3D is still going to um, inhabit, of course, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, the mineral kingdom. But our bodies are, I mean, our minds are going to be operating in 5D and above. Okay, for those that are starseeds, the old souls. So we're going to be operating on different realities where our bodies are going to be integrating, and the new 3D will be cleansed. I heard that we 3D cannot just not exist. Okay, so right now we are experiencing a fallen 3D, okay, which is an inverted 3D. And what they did is they entrapped our consciousness to not access the higher wavelengths or the higher dimensions by keeping us trapped in this 3D construct. But when that dismantles, we're going to have access to our 5D avatar, and there's going to be an aspect of us through the process of descent that is going to rematerialize a three-dimensional body. So that is something new that I just learned, and I always thought that the 3D was going to be completely gone, but no, it's just going to be reconstructed, you could say. I do have another super chat from Nathan. Oh, I've already read that one. Okay. Next question. Is Killary going away? Well, the original Killary was taken out back in 2000, I believe 17 or 18, if you guys recall. This is just an actress. This is not the real Killary. Is the louche in the blood? No, no. Louche is produced when human beings are being tortured, suffering, um, exerting fear, exerting loss of hope, worry. You know, right? So no. So yeah. Louche is not in the blood. Louche is exerted when we are in a state of suffering. According to Dolores Cannon, our Earth's rotation was supposedly changed by Enki to maintain the low vibration. That is correct. I could actually attest to that. We were supposed to be rotating the other way. Okay, so the Earth's vibration or rotation in this case was completely hijacked by Enki. And this went along with the Saturn moon matrix that they installed in order to keep us broadcasting at a very low frequency. So that is correct. When you say old souls, do you mean old people? No, I'm talking about souls that come from higher dimensions, the celestial souls that are coming down to 3D. So that's what an old soul is. You could be 30 years old and be an old soul. You could be 10 years old and be an old soul. In fact, a lot of these old souls are coming in the numbers through the children. Okay, there's a lot of old souls that are coming in right now. Souls millions of years old. Yeah, that's another way to describe it. Yeah, the old souls have already gone through the entire ascent or ladder of ascension. They've already evolved. They've already reached, uh, fifth dimension and above, all the way to the 12. They just kind of came back to help the Earth Terrans and Mother Earth again become restored. Where do whales and dolphins originated? They come from the star system of Sirius B, from a watery world. But also, they were once um, bipedal. They used to once exist on land millions of years ago. They just kind of morphed and mutated into our oceans. All right. Next question. Thank you, Grant David Wilson, for your super chat. He says, didn't Enki just call north south and south north? That changes east west and spin. No need to do anything other than the right books. Interesting perspective, brother. Thank you for sharing. What is the best way to directly blast off back into the 11th dimension where I came from? Well, if you came from the 11th dimension when the ascension takes place, you're going to automatically reintegrate with your 11 dimensional self. That's what ascension is. Okay. Ascension is reintegration with levels of consciousness or with versions of yourself that are existing in higher realities. Good question. Nathan Taylor, thank you so much for your super chat. What do you do when you get to 13th D, 14D, and 15D? Is his question. Well, once you get to 14D, as taught in my cosmic origin, in my Ascension 3.0, you reach what is known as the first level of the Godhead, the eternal you, beyond the eternal you. Okay, this is where you begin to reemerge with prime creator source, who is eternal. So once you reach 13, you reintegrate with what is known as the Godhead 1, and then 14D is the Godhead 2, and then 15D, which is pretty much what is known as the one infinite impulse. You reintegrate, you become one with the what is called the original impulse. So once you reach 15D, you become one with the original impulse. Okay, which is fascinating. Again, if you want to learn more about this stuff, take my Ascension courses. And this is something that I teach in Ascension 3.0, how to embody the cosmic self. Lobo Merlubina, thank you so much for the super chat. Will be in higher dimensions still light? Will be in higher dimensions still light? Well, everything is light. Even the lower densities, even matter is light. It's light vibrating at its lowest frequency. So as we move into or reintegrate into higher dimensions, we become less physical. Okay, but there's something interesting to know about this physical body that we inherited, because we are the culmination of a billion-year intergalactic celestial breeding program. It is believed that this body is going to be ascending along with our subtle energy selves. So we're going to always keep, in a way, this body, but it's going to become immortalized. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty cool, right? We get to take our bodies with us into the eternal realms. You guys have amazing questions tonight. That is correct. Sophia, eternal source, exists in 13 dimension and above. That is correct. Oh, I forgot to mention, I will be presenting at the Conscious Live Expo this coming February, the 19th to the 22nd, I believe. My presentation is on Saturday, I believe at 4 p.m. Pacific time. For those that are attending in person at the Conscious Life Expo, make sure you guys get your tickets through the link that I provide in the description. Where's the expo? At the Los Angeles Hilton. That's where the expo is being held. Los Angeles Hilton. Yes, on the 19th, we're going to do a meditative intention on your own, of course. upon waking up. If you guys could all join me on your own time, standing with the children, standing with all the survivors, the innocents, and of course, upholding the cosmic law of justice. Will you please connect the Nephilim and Draco? Well, like I guess I could do a part two presentation on the Nephilim, the Watchers, the fallen ones, and their hybrid children. You guys love that kind of content, huh? I guess I'll do a part two. I'll call it the Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and its connections to the ancient technology, the living technology, right? Like the Spear of Destiny, the Ring of Power, the Staff of Moses, the Ark of the Covenant. You guys love that stuff, huh? Okay, I'll do a part two. Who are the mermaids? The mermaids. Oh, the mermaids. Well, the mermaids are the humans that, well, again, the original mermaids come from Sirius B and from a planet in the Orion system called Mintaka. And these are mainly watery worlds where you have part humanoid and part fish, right? And there are some times when these mermaids, because they are interdimensional, they could actually shapeshift and materialize legs and human feet and be able to operate on land and then mutate back into becoming mermaids and mermaids so that they could operate in water. All right. So they do exist. I was informed that there is a magnificent mermaid kingdom that exists underneath the ocean in the Atlantic Ocean. And that was some of the Atlantean survivors. Believe it or not, some of the Atlantean survivors were able to mutate into being part sea creature and part humanoid. And I think there's been some images that were captured by some sailors of real mermaids. Okay, so I do believe in the mermaids; they do exist, and they do have a separated kingdom that operates deep in the ocean. All right, next question. Thank you so much, Celeste, for your super chat. Given the unfolding global and energetic shifts, is investing 21,000 in a quantum healing device aligned with the future, the healing practice? I would say, yeah, absolutely. Yes. Start doing things now as if we are already in this new golden age. So, for those of us that are um, involved in the healing modalities, start you know doing whatever it takes to again bring about more of these healing modalities, all right, to help more people. So I would say yes. What density is President Trump in? Good question. I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask Commander Valiant. I don't know what density he is in or where he came from as far as like if he's a star seed. I would say he is an old soul, he is a time traveler, right? The entire Trump family have been time traveling. So I really don't know what dimension he's from, but I could always ask. And also, by the way, I always pin my mailing address in the comments at the end of the presentation. So I do have a mailing address for those that want to send me stuff. It's 1771 West State Route 89A, Suite B, box number 3015, Sedona, Arizona 86336. All right, questions. I did hear about the sun going dark on the 14th, which is tomorrow. late afternoon, and I think Trump was talking about that, right? That the sun could be going dark for a day or two or for 3 days. Who knows? Maybe that's the 3 days of darkness. I'm going to have to look more into that and maybe do a report. Oh, I can't do a report. It's too late. Well, if the sun does go dark tomorrow, guys, then we know that something is happening, okay? Nothing to be afraid of, though, okay? Because everything is under control. We are steadily on a positive timeline trajectory. Donald J. Trump is Archangel Uriel. Well, that's a new one. I've never heard of that. Okay. Will the NPCs be leaving Earth with a solar flash? Absolutely. They're going to be destroyed upon the solar flash because the old system that has been held together by the matrix, the fallen construct, is going to disperse and completely be evaporated. Somebody says he's no angel. I guess they're referring to Trump. All right, everybody has different perspectives. Again, guys, living in a multiverse, there are different realities. Okay, every timeline exists. How's that? Every timeline exists. So depending on your focus and your vibration determines in which timeline you end up in. But welcome to the multiverse. All right, so I do want to thank Carol. Thank you so much for that generous super chat. I appreciate that, sister. Thank you. All right, I probably have time for about one more question as we are getting close to the 90-minute mark. Maybe two more questions. Two more questions. How does the Urantia book, which is, by the way, the fifth epical revelation to the earth, with the Bible being the first, but the Urantia book was also modified. How does the Urantia book content fit into the current scheme of events? That's a good question. Again, the only part of the Urantia book that is accurate, according to my galactic transmissions, is the cosmology part. Other than the cosmology part, everything else has been um, tampered with. All right, so it's more of a misinformation type of revelation when it comes to about 69% of the Urantia book or 70%. So I wouldn't truly trust it. You guys are so welcome. Thank you for your information. Let's see. What do you guys think of the disagreement between DJT and MJ about MM? I don't know what that means. All right, let's see. Ishmael heard the YouTube list. I've never heard the YouTube list. Nope. What is that? Ishmael, can you explain the interplanetary corporate conglomerate so that we can shield and structure our lives accordingly? Well, that is a negative secret space program, the ICC, right? The Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate. Well, that was built when the Nazis took over the US under the direction of the Rothschilds. So the Rothschilds are the ones that owned the Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate. And so that's when they began to, again, work with the NAA, the Negative Alien Agenda Syndicate Group, to do multiple nefarious things up in our solar system and in space, right? Transferring of technology, transferring of human genetics in the intergalactic slave trade, which was one of the big things that the ICC was doing up in space, selling our humans to other aliens for technology. They were also selling our technology. Apparently, we had within the ICC, we had some maverick geniuses. So they were selling our technology to a Type 1 civilization, to Type 1 civilizations and other solar systems. So yeah, they were doing all kinds of nefarious things up there. So the ICC, even though they were a separate function from the Dark Fleet, they were still operating in various dark ways and very dark. Okay, so yeah, that's the ICC for you guys. All right, guys. I hope you guys had a beautiful rest of your night. I will see you guys in 2 days for a Y Hat Alliance update, and may the God Force be with you all. I'll talk to you guys at another time. Bye.